Hi, Jonas and Cam. It's Auntie Sarah with Chapter 2 of the Velveteen Rabbit. So remember last time I showed you the pictures. Here's the boy. He's a new character we're meeting. Finally getting to see him. The rabbit. The dog. The rabbit there. One evening when the boy was going to bed, he couldn't find the china doll that always slept with him. Nana was in a hurry, and it was too much trouble to hunt for the china dogs at bedtime. So she simply looked around, and seeing that the toy cupboard door stood open, she made a swoop. "Here," she said, "take your old bunny. He'll do to sleep with you." And she dragged the rabbit out by one ear and put him on in the boy's arms. That night, and for many nights after, the Velveteen Rabbit slept in the boy's bed. At first, he found it rather uncomfortable, for the boy hugged him very tight, and sometimes he rolled over on him, and sometimes he pushed him so far under the pillow that the rabbit could scarcely breathe. And he missed, too, those long moonlight hours in the nursery when all the house was silent, and his talks with the skin horse. But soon he grew to like it, for the boy liked to talk to him and made nice tunnels for him under the bedclothes, and that he said were like the burrows that real rabbits lived in. And they had splendid games together in whispers when Nana had gone away to her supper and left the nightlight burning on the mantelpiece. And when the boy dropped off to sleep, the rabbit would snuggle down close under his little warm chin and dream, and the boy's hands clasped close around him all night. And so time went on, and the little rabbit was very happy, so happy that he never noticed how his velveteen fur was getting shabbier and shabbier, and his tail was coming unsewn, and all the pink had rubbed off his nose where the boy had kissed him. So here he is again, snuggling down with the boy. Ooh, look at these pictures. All right, so now the Velveteen Rabbit is outside, and he's outside in all these pictures. So let's see what's happening. Spring came, and they had long days in the garden, for wherever the boy went, the rabbit went too. He had rides in the wheelbarrow and picnics on the grass, and lovely fairy huts built for him under the raspberry canes behind the flower border. And once, when the boy was called away suddenly to go out to tea, the rabbit was left out on the lawn until long after dusk, and Nana had to come and look for him with a candle because the boy couldn't sleep unless he was there. He was wet through with the dew and quite earthy from diving into the burrows the boy had made for him in the flower bed, and Nana grumbled as she rubbed him off with the corner of her apron. So he is spending a lot of time outside with the boy. Looks like this is the candle Nana came to find him with. "You must have your old bunny," she said. "Fancy all the fuss for a toy." The boy sat up in bed and stretched out his hands. "Give me my bunny," he said. "You mustn't say that. He isn't a toy. He's real." When the little rabbit heard that, he was so happy. He knew that what the skin horse had said was true at last. The nursery magic had happened to him, and he was no longer a toy. He was real. The boy himself had said it. That night he was almost too happy to sleep, and so much love stirred in his little sawdust heart that it almost burst. And onto his boot button eyes that had long ago lost their polish, there came a look of wisdom and beauty, so that even Nana noticed it the next morning when she picked him up and said, "I declare if that old bunny hasn't got quite a knowing expression." So here he is, sleeping in the bed, so excited that the boy has made him real, and here he is again outside. That was a wonderful summer. Near the house where they lived, there was a wood, And in the long June evenings, the boy liked to go there after tea to play. He took the Velveteen Rabbit with him, and before he wandered off to pick flowers or play um, among the trees, he always made the rabbit a little nest somewhere among the bracken, which are like raspberry bushes, where he would be quite cozy, for he was a kind-hearted little boy and he liked Bunny to be comfortable. One evening, while the rabbit was laying there alone, watching the ants run to and fro between his velvet paws in the grass, he saw two strange beings creep out of the tall bracken near him. What do you think those are? Well, let's see. Look, they're other bunnies. They were rabbits like himself, but quite furry and brand new, and they must have been very well made, for their seams didn't show at all, and they changed shape in a queer way when they moved. One minute they were long and thin, and the next minute fat and bunchy, instead of always staying the same like he did. They patted softly on the ground, and they crept quite close to him, twitching their noses, while the rabbit stared hard to see which side the clockwork stuck out, for he knew people who jumped generally had something to wind them up, but he couldn't see it. They were evidently a new kind of rabbit altogether. They stared at him, and the little rabbit stared back, all the time their noses twitching. "Why don't you get up and play with us?" one of them asked. "I don't feel like it," said the rabbit, for he didn't want to explain that he had no clockwork. "Oh," said the furry rabbit, "it's as easy as anything," and he gave a big hop sideways and stood on his hind legs. "I don't believe you can," said the rabbit. I can," said the little rabbit. "I can jump higher than anything," and he meant when the boy threw him, but of course he didn't want to say so. So here the rabbit is showing off how he can stretch his legs, and now the real rabbit is sniffing the Velveteen Rabbit here. "Can you hop on your hind legs?" asked the furry rabbit. That was a dreadful question, for the Velveteen Rabbit had no hind legs at all. The back of him was made all in one piece, like a pincushion, and he sat still in the bracken and hoped the other rabbits wouldn't notice. "I don't want to," he said again, but the wild rabbits had very sharp eyes, and one stretched out his neck and looked. "He hasn't got any hind legs," he called out. "Fancy a rabbit without any hind legs!" And he began to laugh. "I have," cried the little rabbit. "I have got hind legs. I'm sitting on them." "Then stretch them out and show me, like this," said the wild rabbit, and he began to whirl around and dance until the little rabbit got quite dizzy. "I don't like dancing," he said. "I'd rather sit still." But all the while he was longing to dance, for a funny new tickling feeling ran through him, and he felt he would give anything in the world to be able to jump about like these rabbits did. The strange rabbit stopped dancing and came quite close. He came so close this time that his whiskers brushed the Velveteen Rabbit's ear, and then he wrinkled his nose and suddenly flattened his ears and jumped backwards. "He doesn't smell right," he exclaimed. "He isn't a rabbit at all. He isn't real." "I am real," said the little rabbit. "I am real." The boy said so, and he nearly began to cry. Poor little guy. So here are the pictures on the next page, and what do we have here? The real rabbits are jumping away from the Velveteen Rabbit, and there the Velveteen Rabbit is sitting and waiting. Just then was a sound of footsteps, and the boy ran past near them. And with a stamp of the feet and a flash of white tails, the two strange rabbits disappeared. "Come back and play with me," called the little rabbit. "Oh, do come back. I know I'm real." But there was no answer. Only the ants ran to and fro, and the bracken swayed gently where the two strangers had passed. The Velveteen Rabbit was alone. "Oh dear," he thought. "Why did they run away like that? Why couldn't they stop and talk with me?" For a long time he lay very still, watching the bracken and hoping that they would come back. But they never returned, and presently the sun sank lower, and the little white moths fluttered out, and the boy came to carry him in. So see, he's waiting at dusk. And that's about the time of night it is right now. And that is the end of chapter 2 for tonight. We will read chapter 3 next time. All right, bye-bye.